Hi everybody! Just before the start of this video, I'd like to make a little bit of an apology, disclaimer kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. My tablet did actually cut out a couple of times during the filming of this video, so there are a few bits that are missing. So I won't be able to make a full speed colour of this one, but hopefully there's enough here to show you how I did pretty much every element of the picture, and it will be of use to some people. So here we go. Please bear with me. Thank you for watching. Hi everybody! Today I'm back working on my picture from the Women of Tua by Lisa Johanna, and as you can see I've worked a little bit on this morning, just trying to figure out the colour schemes and what I'm actually trying to do with it. That did take quite a long time, so what I'm planning on doing today is just concentrating on this area to try and show you how I'm going to fix the little bit of bleeding that happened around here where our super dip painting bled onto the frame. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that, how I did the rocks and the leaves. Maybe do a couple of mushrooms. Here we go. I'll just turn this around so we can see what's going on here. Maybe zoom us in. I've been using the Arteza pencils because I thought they worked slightly better on this paper. And these are the colours that I used for the rocks. I used ash black, which is A014, sage green, A615, mushroom grey, A004, raw umber A302, that's polychromos black, concrete grey A013, I'll look up the number and put it in the description, and that is the white whose number has actually worn off, so I can't tell you that number, I'd have to look it up and put it in the description for you. And there we go, this is starting with the rocks to show how I'm going to fix all this bleed through here. I started by using the ash black, that's A014. And just putting in the darkest of the shadows and a little bit along this edge just to disguise where that bleed through came. And yeah, to get a kind of rock-like texture, what I was doing, instead of trying to blend nicely, smoothly, lay my colours down, you basically want to scribble to get a bit of a kind of rock texture coming through. Just gone onto the stem there, never mind, we'll fix that later. So yeah, basically scribbling to try and get a bit of that rock texture coming through and trying not to be so smooth. We probably will blend it a tiny bit later, but for now, yeah, trying to make those pencil strokes pretty rough, showing that texture of the rock. And leaving a bit of a highlight area around where the stone is, those cracks are coming in the stone. And I've been just highlighting those cracks a little bit with the white gel pen. Trying to put a bit of a shadow as well behind these leaves. I will go over that with the black a bit later on, but just behind where the leaves are coming to give an indication of where our light source was, which was from up here, but this will actually be from underneath these leaves, so the shadow would be behind them. So yeah, pretty rough scribbling, and at the moment it probably looks pretty bad, but once you put all the other colours on, and get it looking a bit more rock-like, that will kind of even out and look loads better. Where else did we have up? Oh, here. That bleed through went through here. So I'm just using my darker shadow areas just to cover where that pen bled through, because it was a brown pen where I did the kind of watercolor effect there with the super tip, but the bleed through has actually seemed to be looking kind of a bluish grey, which is slightly odd, but I will just use that and turn it into a bit of rock texture. And there we go, that is the ash black. Then our next shade up would be concrete grey. Again, just scribbling, trying to get the rocks a bit rough looking with the texture. So don't be worried that it doesn't look neat, it's not supposed to. Rocks are really rough, so there's lots of dents and bits where the rock kind of goes in and out. So the light is kind of all over the place. Looking at a rock, they're not supposed to be shiny and smooth. So that's not what we're going for. Okay, and our next colour would be the mushroom grey. This time going over top of the last couple of colours that we've used and going over the edges that are furthest away, like around the outside of this circle. So the frame is a circle, so we're going around the outside just to keep it light, but not as light as this bit that's close to the frame. Because I used a white gel pen to cover up the worst of this bleed through here, so we'll be keeping the area closest to the inside, we'll be keeping that fairly light to work in that gel pen. You can see that's looking a lot more rock-like even now. But I find that if I just use greys to colour rocks, then they tend to look a bit, I don't know, kind of unnatural and not quite right. So once I've finished with that mushroom grey there, I go in little tiny areas with the raw umber, that's 302, and the sage green, just to give little areas of colour here and there. Because rocks do have moss in them, or on them rather. So they do tend to have a greenish tinge in places, I find anyways. So a few bits of this sage green kind of reflects that, makes it look a bit more natural, I think anyway. Again, scribbly, because we're just giving a sort of tinge. We can't see the individual little stalks of moss, so we're a bit too far away for that, so we'll just give a little bit of kind of hint that there might be moss there. And a raw umber, because rocks do come in lots of different colours, and you do tend to get kind of brownish rocks sometimes, so little bits of brown in them. Oops. Went a bit too scribbly there, but I'll go and blend that out in a little while. And there we go, a few bits of the brown just dotted around. There we go. Now we've got our base kind of colours down. I can go back in with this ash black. A few more deeper shadows around the outside. Adding a bit more texture. We're all about texture when it comes to rocks. You need to look rough. Which I think we're doing pretty well so far. Doing a little bit of shadow down that edge because as the rocks are kind of together, this one would be casting a bit of shadow on that one, I would imagine. And of course these leaves would have their shadows. This is all just pretty random, so don't worry if one rock doesn't look exactly the same as any other rock. They're not supposed to all be the same. They're rocks. You don't find two rocks the same if you went outside. So yeah, just feel free to be a bit random with it. Have a bit of fun. And there we go. And this is the lightest, the mushroom grey. And here we come in with a little bit of blending. Not too much, we don't want to make a box look smooth. They're not, if it was marble or something like that, then yeah, a lot more blending there. But we are going for a more rougher texture here, so. So again, no need to be super careful. Okay, and what I did down the bottom, I went into the shadows of these leaves with the polychromos black, just to deepen those shadows even more, make the leaves stand out. Okay, you can add in your own little cracks or lines of texture or anything that takes your fancy. Have a bit of a play about with it. And there we go. And for these little cracks, I was very, very lightly edging those with the gel pen, as well as around these edges, just to help cover up that bleed through that we had going on, which has worked quite well, I think. Just dabbing it with my finger like that just blurs it a little bit and picks up some of the colour, so it's not a super obvious white line, which, because rocks are not super shiny unless it is something like marble, then that seems to help it blend in. Okay, moving on to the leaves. So I can show how I'm going to cover up this slight bleed through along the edges. Again, it's come through kind of grey, but I think we'll be able to work with that. That's going to be fine. And these colours again with the Arteza, olive green, moss green, raw umber and jade green. And again, I'll put those down in the description below. Okay, I'll go with this one. This seems to be one of the worst with the leakage on it. So this is the olive green. And I'm just going to do this kind of into the centre of the leaf, fading out towards the edge. Okay, we can always get back and work into it. Probably will with these shadows behind the leaf. Once we've got the actual leaf going on, then we'll be able to see whether it needs more shadows or not. Right, this is going on to the moss green. Just quite lightly filling in now up to that line I've got around the edge, because I've been doing the edges of these leaves, they're kind of creamy colour. So we're going to blend all that in. But with the jade green, I've been putting a little bit more shading into the middle of the leaf and along these slight little bit of it along the edges of these veins of the leaf. Okay, back into the olive to blend that jade green out a little bit. Okay. This is the cream I forgot to mention. I will add that one into this description below, but it's getting very little now. I can't see the number anymore. And I'm going over the edge of that leaf and over the green in the middle to blend it all out some. I think those leaves need a little bit more of the jade green. Those veins rather need a little bit more of the jade green. Edging. Okay, and around this edge, like what I've been doing on these leaves towards the bottom, I'm going to add some bits where it's kind of yellowed a bit around the edges. Maybe got a bit chewed on by bugs. So I'm using this area of the bleed through to try to turn that into this area of yellowing or yellowy brown around the edges. I find it helps leaves look a bit more natural if you do that to them. Because they are growing out in the wild, obviously they're going to be chomped on by bugs a bit. And a lot of them do have little kind of patches or little browny bits around the edges. This is dark chocolate, A310 I think, just to add a little bit, not the whole way, but a little tiny bit of edging to that yellow. Okay, and finally, with the white gel pen, I was going over this line that's dividing the colours on the leaf just to blend that out a little bit. Make it look a bit more natural, I hope. And around the veins of the leaf. And there we go. Just picking up the black to tidy things up. This is the Polychrome's black. To make sure our leaf is standing out from our rock. Make sure that's shadow behind it. I've gone over the stem there, but the leaf would be casting a shadow onto the stem, so that's fine. That's how we want it. And I'll just emphasize these veins a little bit more because they would be slightly raised from the leaf and maybe casting a little bit of a shadow. There we go. You wouldn't be able to tell we had any colour bleeding there, I don't think. And for the stem of the leaf, or the stem of this ivy rather, the vine, I made a bit of a mistake with it down the bottom. I started colouring it green when actually they are more of a brownish colour. So what I did, I went in with the olive green and the moss green, the same ones that I leaf, and I used my dark chocolate brown just to shade it and give it a bit more of a brownish tinge, which seemed to work quite well, so I'll just carry on doing that. This is the olive green, where the darker areas of the stem would be. And that's the moss green, just to shade it very slightly with the dark chocolate brown. Again, I'll go in with the black just to make sure our stem is standing out. Maybe add a little bit of the white gel pen. There we go, so we can see that there is a stem there. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Moving on, I'll just fix up this leaf here so that we can see that we have got a little bit of bleed through on this one as well. So I'll fix up this one just to show you how I'm doing that. The same as the other one really, starting with the olive green. So yeah, not as much as a disaster as you might have first have appeared to be. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of thinking around how we would use the mistake to our advantage, which is always what I would try to do. Make it look as if it's supposed to be like that. Turn it into something that you can use to improve the picture. There's no mistakes, just happy accidents, like Bob Ross says. So it takes, for me, it takes a heck of a lot for me to want to give a picture up as a bad job and just throw it away. You can usually work around any little mistakes like that. There we go, that's our greens. A bit of the jade green on the edges of the leaf. And getting a bit more depth into the middle of that leaf there. Okay, and we're going to blend that all with green. And again, we're going to turn that kind of splash of bleeded colour on the end there into another yellowed, kind of yellowy edge of the leaf. We're just going to work with what's there. So here we go with the raw umber. Quite a big bit on the edge of the leaf there. But the whole point is that these little kind of yellowy bits, they're not all the same. It makes the leaves look a bit more natural if they're all different. Okay. And then the dark chocolate brown. Not all the way around the yellow, just, yeah, a little suggestion of a bit of edging. Okay, now our white gel pen, we're just going to cover up this line and add in our veins. Usually when I colour these kind of ivy leaves, I give a marker base. But as I've said, because this picture was going to be filmed on camera, I didn't really want to risk using the markers and having it be like super streaky or something. So I had to figure out how to colour them with pencils. That's why I practiced this morning before I started filming. I had to figure out what I was doing to try and make these leaves look how I wanted them to. Okay, polychromos black. I'm just going to emphasize these veins a little bit. Tidy up the white gel pen. Make sure that our leaf is standing out by going into the shadows. Okay, there we go. You wouldn't know there that we had any problems with our super tip. Alright, there's a bit of a stem there that's having a bleed through. So just go over that. Olive green, moss green. Shading with dark chocolate because these stems are brown apparently. Well, in the pictures that I googled, those stems are brown. Okay, so you'll probably see there's a bit of a jump there. I'm not quite sure how much we missed recording because I'm having problems with the tablet again. But just in case, I will show you again how I made these mushrooms look as if they're glowing. For a start, I did like a small kind of halo of the cream colour around them. Right the way around the mushroom. The whole thing will be glowing. Okay, and the colours I was using for the mushrooms, these little glowing mushrooms. Apologise for any background noise, that's the neighbours, I'm sorry about that. The colours I was using are the dark chocolate brown, camel brown and raw umber, and I'll put those in the description as usual. For the lightest colour, is camel brown. Then we've got raw umber to give a little bit of shade to this lit up area. And for the dark chocolate brown, I was using mostly on this stem bit. I'm not sure if that's what you call it. I'm not well up on mushrooms and fungi, but yeah, for this area down here, I was using the dark chocolate brown so that we can go in with the white gel pen and try and make it look as if he's glowing. Okay, we'll get a little bit more of the brighter yellow colour. There we go, I'll blend that with the actual cream. Especially on that top bit there where it's going to be glowing. And there we go. Let's just darken that a little bit so our gel pen will show up. There we go, and for the rock around the mushroom, we want to be keeping that pretty light, but still showing a little bit of texture. So this is the mushroom grey. Move on to the concrete grey. Trying to keep the colours, the lighter colours closer to the actual mushroom. And that's glowing because that will be lighting up the rock, so making the colours lighter. But it would be casting a shadow down here on the edge. So we'll try and put that in a little bit. And then we'll go on to our ash black. Make sure that shadow is showing up there. The mushroom is making light, so it'll be making a shadow down there. And as this turns away from the mushroom, we'll be getting the shadow down here. And keeping it pretty scribbly. You want to see that texture. Even if we're in the light, we will still see the texture. Okay, we'll add a little bit of the jade green. We'll add a little bit of the sage green. Just some little squiggles in places. Going on to the raw umber. And I would think quite a lot of this would be showing because that yellow light of the mushroom would be picking out any yellow bits that are actually in the rock. So we'll add a few of those little bits. Okay, we'll take our black into okay, so we trailed off there. I'll take our black in there just to emphasize these shadows a little bit. And add a little bit with our mushroom grey. Yeah, not too much. Okay, then going in with the white gel pen. A little bit along the edges of those cracks. And I was going around the line art of this mushroom, just the outside lines. There we go, and adding a few little sparkle dots. To make it look like it's glittering. A little bit of light coming through on those ridges of the stem. There we go, that's how we're making the mushrooms look glowing. Okay, so I'm having a heck of a time trying to get a bit of recording done today. My camera keeps freezing and the files are corrupted and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It could have been because I was zoomed in a bit too far. So what I'm going to do is film pretty far out and then move in editing, hopefully. And yeah, there is a bit of a gap now. I've come on quite a bit. I did actually record all of that being coloured, but unfortunately I can't view the files. So hopefully I'll be able to colour this little bit here and at least you'll be able to see it being finished off. Okay, so for these little mushrooms, I was using the same colours as I did for the bigger glowy mushrooms, and that is the raw umber, the camel brown, the dark chocolate brown, and the cream to blend it. So let's see how far we can get this time without it shutting down. Hopefully we'll be able to see this whole section, if nothing else. If not, I'll try and see what I can make of what we've already got. Now we did actually have a bit of our bleed through coming up onto this mushroom, so I'll see if we can sort that out. Might have to rely on good old white gel pen for this one. That'll be a dark chocolate brown I've just done. That was for our biggest shadows towards the side. A little bit of the camel. Okay, we'll blend all that with the cream, which I really could do with sharpening right now. Alright, onto the white gel pen. Okay, going well so far. Will we be able to get the rocks done? Let's see. Ash black, concrete grey, mushroom grey, sage green and raw umber. Starting with the ash black. Try and give a bit of shadow behind these mushrooms as they stand out being lighter. And of course towards the edge it's furthest away from Our Lady in the middle. So that's where our kind of imaginary lighting is coming from, as well as these mushrooms, so I have to remember to leave that top of that rock a little bit lighter. Okay, the concrete grey. And mushroom grey. Might add a little bit more of the cream towards the top there to make that mushroom give it a little bit of a glow. So that glow will be coming down here onto this rock as well, lightening that up for us. And we'll have our raw umber coming through more. This rock is in a kind of yellowy light. So yeah, I'm hoping that the problems that I've been fighting with today, mainly because I was zoomed in a little bit too close. I tend to get a little bit of lag and stuff when I do zoom in a little bit too far. So I'm going to try and fix that in editing and zoom us in, which will be a bit easier to control when I'm less likely to wander off camera to do my stuff, as I am wont to do. I have done that quite a few times in the past, I think, but yeah. Just adding a bit more of the ash black around the edge there, behind the mushrooms to make them stand out. And we're going to use the polychromos black to add a few more darker shadows. Before we go in with our white gel pen and just put a little tiny bit along the edges of those cracks. Again, we don't want it to be too bright. I'll cover up that little tiny bit of extra colour bleed there. Put my shadow behind that mushroom. Okay, not too bad. Can go a little bit darker with this rock because we're pretty far away, at least there, from any glow or any light. Might add a little bit of cream down there for that glowy mushroom we've got. Concrete grey. We'll just add a little bit of cream before we go in with our mushroom grey, especially around here because this mushroom would be glowing kind of here. We'll add a little bit there just to bring it all together. Now we go in with that sage green for a few little scribbles. Just a suggestion of moss and things growing on the rocks. I like to use it to make the rocks look a little bit more natural and the little kind of bit of brown coming in. So it's not so uniform because rocks are not uniform. Bless you, Loki. Because rocks are not uniform. Okay, it's not too bad. What give it some along that edge because it's not going to be as bright as the edges closer to the light. Although this side of the frame is away from the light that we've got going on in the picture, but it has got these little mushrooms glowing away. So it's getting some more light of its own. There we go. And a little bit of white along those cracks. Around this edge, just to cover up that colour that's bled through. So we'll move on to the next rock with our ash black. Make sure we get a bit of a shadow falling under there. Just to show the rocks are separate from each other, there is a bit of a difference in colour. And they would be casting shadows on each other. Probably need one there. And the mushrooms as well. Okay, so we'll do our ash black for our main shadows. Trying to keep it pretty light coming up towards these mushrooms. And still scribble in to show the texture of these rocks. And don't be too worried about your marks being in the wrong place or anything like that. It's a rock. It's going to be rough and scribbly, and it doesn't matter if it's not neat. It is better if it's not neat. Okay, concrete grey. Again, not being too careful. Just making sure that we leave a bit of a glow around those mushrooms. That's our mushroom grey. Do a few little bits of the sage green. And some of the raw umber, especially around where these mushrooms are, because that would be bringing it out in the rock. Got that edge, furthest away edge with the mushroom grey. And then come in with the black. Okay, I like a little bit more of that cream there. Try and blend out the grey into the cream, just to show that glow of the mushroom. Not too bad. And we'll bring in the white gel pen just to highlight this crack a little bit. We can be a bit less subtle around here because the mushrooms are shining. Okay, so let's do our shiny mushrooms. there isn't much of this light reflecting onto the crystals because they are quite far away from the crystals, and the mushrooms are not glowing super much. They do have a nice little glow to them, but not enough to light up a whole room or anything. So yeah, we're leaving the crystals more with the room light that's going on inside the frame. Okay, raw umber. I'm trying to make this kind of stem or trumpet part quite dark because we're going to go in there with the white gel pen to highlight it. Blend that top part with the cream. That's, in my head, that's the main part that's glowing, is the top. So that's why I have the shadows to this kind of stem or trumpet bit. Go in with the white gel pen for our glowing mushrooms. A few little sparkles. Same here. Just outline that top bit, which I think would be the main part that was glowing. A few little sparkles. There we go. Not much left to do now. Move on to our next row. Ash black. And coming up lighter as we get up into that kind of glowy area surrounding the mushroom. Add some cream in there. Just make sure we keep that area slightly lighter because that's where our little mushroom has this glow coming. And going on to the mushroom grey. Still coming in for a few little bits inside that glow because we still want to show the texture. So might have to use the slightly darker grey for that. So the concrete grey. Put a shadow underneath this rock. As a note, these polychromos do not seem to be working super well on this paper. I don't know if it's just because of the batch of paper I've got. I don't want my shadows to be really super darkly black, so it's not such a big deal, but yeah, just in case anyone's wondering. Here we go with the sage green. And a few little bits of the raw umber. Especially up towards where we got that glow going on. Can mix all the mushroom grey a tiny bit. There we go, and the white gel pen. Can be a little bit subtle, as I said, because we have got some glow going on, so there would be some light. Even though rocks are not super shiny, you would see the light from the mushroom. So we have olive green. And I'll just go to these stems here. And this is the moss green. I'm going to take our jade green in just for a little bit on the edges of these veins and in the middle of the leaf. And the cream at the top of it all. Raw umber for a few little yellow bits around the edges. Dark chocolate brown. Oops, I forgot to shade those stems with the chocolate brown. There we go. There we go, now we can do our white on this leaf. Just to add a few bit extra shadows and definition to these little veins on the leaf. Make sure those stems are standing out. Missed a couple of lines there. Maybe shade a few edges of some of these leaves with the moss green. And what I did do up in the top, I ended up putting a few little spots on these leaves with the chocolate brown, just again trying to make them look a bit more natural. A little bit random. There we go, I'm going to be calling her done there. All finished. I'm sorry this part didn't go exactly as planned, but I have done my best to cobble together the bits of video that I did manage to get. And hopefully the problem was that I was zoomed in a little bit too far with this picture, because this book is slightly shorter than A4 and the picture isn't quite the full page, so I was zoomed in quite far actually with the tablet. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care everyone. See you in future videos. Bye.